I, he got fired from Kane, now we ain't got no shame, so we started a pod, took Yates into town.
Hey everybody, welcome to Chuck Yates Needs a Job, the podcast. I've always said that when I do a podcast, the thing I've figured out is there's somebody sitting across from me that can tell a story that no one else on the planet can tell. And your job as the podcast host is to get that story out. And call it 80% of the time, 4 out of 5 of these, I sort of know what the story is going in and I guide the conversation. Welcome in, Alma Cook. I have no idea what that story is today.
Oh, well, lucky for you, I have some idea. How's it going, Chuck? I heard you need a job.
This is sad. I cut a check to the government today for taxes. I might actually have to get a job.
Oh, Chuck. I always say if I had a magic wand and could do one thing legislatively, it would be to get rid of automatic withholding so that everyone would have to feel that pain every April.
Oh, totally.
That business owners feel and contractors feel.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Quarterly withholding tax are painful. Yeah.
On the other hand, the write-offs, can't complain at some of the things that you get to write off when you're running.
If you have no income, there's nothing to write off, though. That's kind of the problem.
No
write-offs sound great, but yes, when you have no income. But anyway, how I wound up still having to kind of check is beyond me. So, as I recall, dear sweet friend Michael Patrick Smith, the good hand, the musician turned Bakken oilfield worker, introduced us somehow. Is that right?
Yeah, that is right. And even the way you put that kind of just made me bristle a little bit because that's always been my claim to fame, being the musician turned Bakken oilfield chick. And Michael stole my story from under me. Oh, wow. But he's such a good guy.
And he wrote a book.
Yeah, he wrote a book.
He trumped you on it. There you go.
Yeah. No, but it's good to have him in my same category. And I was in LA for the last 8 years essentially, and he's been in New York. So we're holding it down on different sides of the country with the same story.
So give me this story. How do you put together musician and Bakken in the same sentence?
Well, it wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have ended up in the Bakken without music at the end of the day. So I was a city kid, born and raised in Madison, Wisconsin, went to school in Chicago for music major, in fact. So not exactly on the path to become like a petroleum engineer or something.
Madison, Wisconsin.
Oh, you love Madison.
Garbage.
Oh, garbage.
No, the band Garbage.
Oh,
the band Garbage. Not garbage. Not the band Garbage. Butch Vig actually produced Nevermind by Nirvana in Madison, Wisconsin at the Smart Studios.
At Smart Studios, no kidding.
Absolutely.
I didn't know that. You're teaching me hometown trivia. Yeah, but I majored in music. I got something really rare at that time when I graduated, which was 2013 from college, which was an online job. Those were not, a dime a dozen at that time. And I thought I was going to hold this online job forever. I was a copy editor, professional grammar Nazi. It was a lot of fun. I wasn't making very good money, but I was getting paid to read about politics, no less. And it was a lot of fun. So I was working part-time doing that. Working from home allowed me to move to LA and continue working remotely. And I thought that was just going to be my rhythm, working from home, able to still flexibly play festivals or travel to tour whenever I would need to. But then I got sassy and I got fired. And I ended up just kind of caught flat-footed. And this family friend of mine, who my brother had studied abroad with in Thailand, of all places, was from Williston and had started a safety company during the boom. And so he extends me the one online job that they had at that company, which happened to open up that very week, which was a compliance position. I took it. I had no idea what I was doing. I always tell people I didn't know the difference between a drilling rig and a cell phone tower when I started, and that's the truth. But I fell in love with it. There's some growing pains at first, but I caught the bug. And
so when is this? Circa what year? About?
Well, what's interesting is I was copy editing safety manuals throughout that time for him, on and off. So I kind of had, like a foot in the door. I remember looking at like Oasis's SOPs
Oh,
before I
yeah.
knew who Oasis was. So that probably started maybe 2014, 2015. And I even visited the Bakken around then. But it was 2017 when I was all in
Okay.
and, started making oil field money rather than editorial money, if you know what I mean.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so safety compliance. Ever run across Kraken?
All the time. Yeah. I mean, they're Bakken dominant up there.
Yeah. No, Bruce and Brad. So that was portfolio company when I was with Kane Anderson.
No kidding.
Yeah, so-
Well, they've come a long way. They just doubled in size, practically,
I know.
buying those bowline assets.
Guys, y'all can actually go sell. It's one of we've had that company for so long.
Really?
And they're such good guys and it does well, but it's like every time oil prices creep up, I'm like, please just go sell. But anyway,
Oh my gosh, that's
they
so
don't watch
funny.
the podcast, so they won't hear.
I don't know. I
So-
wouldn't put it past them.
So say, do you actually move to the Williston Basin, or are you still living in LA when you're?
Well, I kept a foot in LA for a long time. And what ended up happening was I would go up to the Bakken for business trips to visit with clients. I mean, most of what I can do, I can definitely do from home. But it's always nice to have that FaceTime and nice to, be there for an inspection or be there for an audit or whatever someone may be going through from the compliance side. But it just got harder and harder to get back off the plane at LAX when I would land. I would see the palm trees and it wasn't a happy sight. I just kind of wanted to be back in the Bakken all the time. So I started spending more and more time up there.
First time that's ever been said, I think, on the planet.
You're kidding. No,
I'm sure there are kids from Montana and North Dakota that say the same thing.
maybe. No, there's something special about that place, man. I mean, the speed of the town, the fact that you can walk into a bar and know a number of people there, and some of them are probably CEOs that you've been meaning to meet. It's a really special place, an industry town,
So you moved up there.
I did. I cut ties with LA actually last year. I kept a place in LA, but eventually it got too much. I should have cut ties earlier, like during the pandemic, for example. But yeah, I bought a house last summer and now I married a Houstonian. So now my split is Williston, Houston rather than Williston, LA.
Oh, gotcha. Now, what does the husband do?
He actually, you'd be interested in this. He works in emissions management and measurement.
Okay.
For a company called Valadier, and he's new to the company, so we're still figuring out a good rhythm there, but they seem to be fantastic and just solving really interesting problems.
Yeah, no, that's going to be very interesting because the SEC is making everyone disclose emissions and the like. And I've said this numerous times, so people are sick of me saying this, but I think it's actually going to be really good for the oil and gas business because it's burning our product that's the problem. It's the Amazon vans. It's actually not us. I mean, in terms of producing oil and gas type stuff, we're not at zero emissions, but we've done a really good job of cleaning that up. So I think we're going to look good by comparison.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking the difference between scope 1 and scope 3, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know how you even begin to measure that stuff on the scope 3 side, but I love to...
And I think it's going to be eye rolls at scope 3. I mean, everybody, everybody at scope 3 is going to be whatever, and people are going to look at scope 1, and we're going to look good by comparison.
My heart breaks for the scope 2 side. I don't know if you want a bunny trail here this soon in the interview, but
Bunny trail away.
Oh man, so my clients are the contractors. My clients are the vendors who work for these oil and gas operators. I'm here to help small businesses navigate the world of compliance, which includes some environmental stuff. It also includes insurance and training, anything under the sun that you can imagine. It just kind of gets grouped in that compliance umbrella. And what we're seeing more and more of is that my guys are being asked to, more often than not, just simply fill out 200-page questionnaires about their emissions, which they're not measuring because they're like a 2-person company or a 3-person company. And these are getting reported back up to the operators for what? For just bad data collection? I don't really understand. So I'm starting to see it get in my guys' way. I won't say it's been a problem, but it's been an annoyance, and I'm a little worried that pretty soon it's going to be something that they have to really, really work hard and spend money to measure.
So give me an example of maybe a client. Are you talking owner-operator has 3 drilling rigs, that type person? Give me an example of a client that would be falling under this potentially burdensome regulation?
Yeah. So an example I use a lot are welders. Welders
Okay.
that are doing pipeline, or someone who does insulation for tanks on site. There may be a 5-person company, maybe it's just one person, and every bit of paperwork that you add to a 1-person company is a burden, because this guy grew up on a farm, or he grew up on the rigs. He didn't get into this business for paperwork, and so he literally doesn't. I mean, it's not that he's dumb. He just hasn't spent his time getting interested in this stuff. And so he doesn't even know what he's looking at when he's asked questions about his emissions
And how
or
much
water use or whatever.
And how much does a welder actually even admit?
I wouldn't know where to begin even looking at that. Actually, I have kind of a dream that my husband could start a company up in the Bakken that would help folks in that demographic get to the measuring when it's time, when someone's holding a gun to their head and saying, or else. But in the interim, I don't know. There's just so many question marks.
Yeah. That's interesting. I hadn't thought about it, because when you said welder, I'm sitting there going, okay, so they've got the gun going, and I'm sure it emits something driving to and
Driving
job.
Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of...
I think so, yeah. I mean, you're supposed to track miles driven. I mean, we track miles driven often for incident rates, but it starts to matter more when you're actually trying to measure emissions rather than simply average it against how many crashes you've had on the road. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough. And what people don't realize is that oil and gas is built on the backs of these very small companies. I mean, tens of thousands of these small service providers are making the industry run. It's not Exxon, it's not BP, it's not Shell, it's not even Kraken. It's Bob's Welding, it's Kenny's Insulation, it's Alma's compliance company, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and does that wind up ultimately being outsourced somehow, or at this point, I guess they're just having to figure it out?
Yeah, they're having to figure it out. They outsource it to me at the moment, but in terms of actual measurement, there's nobody in the Bakken, I think, that's helping those companies of that scale measure their emissions.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, there's always... It's always funny whenever somebody talks about, big business hates government. Big business loves government. Right, because they put these rules in place, and big business can absorb these costs and handle it, and all it does is put the small competitors out of business.
Yeah, and in this case, small vendors who ultimately will have to raise their prices, and it'll make the operators raise their prices too. So I don't exactly know where this is going. We're just kind of kicking the can down to the next guy.
Yeah, and we sit there and we build up this cost structure and make our oil uncompetitive versus foreign sources, and they don't take as good a care as we do in terms of watching out for the environment, et cetera. And I always say, and pardon my French, there's not a peeing and non-peeing part of the pool, right? I mean, you either pollute the environment by burning a barrel, or you don't, and so yeah, that's unfortunate. So how does music play into this?
Well, continuing to work from home, as was always the plan, I had still ample free time and now a little more financing to continue to put out the same kinds of projects that I was doing back in college and shortly thereafter. But as I fell more and more in love with the Bakken, my focus, and I was already writing a lot of songs about place. I've always been fascinated by the idea of place. My favorite place was the Bakken. So what am I going to write about but the Bakken? And not in a corny, cheesy, down home oil patch man song kind of way, but something that's poetic and moving and sincere. And so I wrote this one song in particular called 5,000 Candles, and released a music video for that last year that featured a lot of those small vendors that we were just talking about. And people responded super well to it. I thought this song was kind of not that I thought that it was corny, but it was more of an experiment in rhyme than anything. I didn't think people would latch onto it, much less people outside of the Bakken, but it's consistently, tagged as people's favorite songs of mine when I'm at shows they request it, whether it's in Williston, North Dakota, or in Madison, Wisconsin.
So I remember, because I think Michael Patrick Smith sent me that song. Maybe that's how we met, or maybe you sent it to me. I couldn't remember. But so who do you sound like if we've got comparables? It is the Alma Cook music style experience similar to.
I've prepped myself for a lot of interview questions over the years, and for some reason I always slack on this one. 5,000 Candles in particular, it's hard to match. So I would put it as like a folk Americana. I'm struggling to find, singer-songwriter. My happy place is more R&B and neo-soul, pop soul. And some of my stuff is much more in that vein, but 5,000 Candles is kind of just like this middle-of-the-road pop, like adult contemporary. I'm really grasping at straws trying to find a name to match, but...
I got you. So Jewel and Barry White had a baby, and that's 5,000 Candles.
Yeah, maybe with a little bit of it's not folk, it's not bluegrass. Like I don't quite know, but people will have to listen to it for themselves. It's not that it's so profound that I can't label it. I'm just bad at labeling it.
See, the record deal, you got to have the pitch, right? You're always combining somebody popular with somebody from the past, and you're saying they had a baby. That's the key to your pitches.
Sure, yeah, if I cared about pitches, but I mean, this is the era of the independent musician, and I have the ability to fund a career that most independent musicians can't because of Oil and Gas. Not that I'm rolling in cash or anything, but compared to a copy editor salary or a barista salary, like I've been really blessed in that way, and I'm super grateful. So no record label for me. I'm going to keep doing the independent thing. I love it.
Nice.
Work slow at my own pace.
Nice. No, my oldest kiddo, my daughter Charlie, is big time musician, and has always been. I mean, 10 years. When she was 10 years old, I started taking her to a music producer. And it's the wildest thing because you've done Americana, singer-songwriter, so you probably play the acoustic guitar.
I play an acoustic tenor guitar because I'm a cheater.
Ooh, nice.
Only 4 strings, not 6.
She couldn't play an instrument to save her life. She programs it all into the computer, right? So left to her own devices, she's probably EDM sounding out there. She's put together a group that kind of has a more what I'll call pop type vibe to it. But at the end of the day, yeah, I've got a musician too.
Oh, that's a great time. How old is she?
So she's 20.
Okay.
And this is a great story. So she, after her sophomore year in high school, says, screw it. I'm done with high school, drops out and goes to college. So drops out 2 years early. Goes to college, gets a music and a political science degree from Bard College, and decides, Dad, I'm going to New York and I'm going to be a DJ. I'm like,
oh my gosh.
Dad wants to go to New York and be a DJ. That sounds outstanding. So anyway, she goes, she throws a couple of shows, and one night she is in line for somebody, the National, 1975, one of those bands. They were having an after party. Management comes out and says, hey, you're not getting in tonight. It's only VIPs. We're packed. Y'all go home. Charlie finds this vest that has the fluorescence on it, you know, kind of like a security guard would wear. And she puts it on and just walks into the party and just kind of acts like she belongs there, right? At one point, works the door for 2 hours.
Oh my gosh.
She's just sitting there. Can I see your ID? You're not on the list. I'm sorry.
You are kidding me. The power of the uniform, right?
She does this. So it's 4:00 in the morning, and it's like the bass player, the band, the manager. There's somebody that writes a Substack on Manhattan nightlife, and, you know, 5 or 6 other, and they're all sitting around, and Charlie just fusses up. Yeah, I shouldn't have been in here. I just stole this jacket. I put it on. And the person that wrote the Substack column was like, oh my God, that's great. And wrote an article about DJ Doorgirl.
Oh my goodness.
And she's become a bit of a minor celebrity now.
I love it.
She has not asked for money in 8 months.
No, not from you?
Not from me. Maybe the ex-wife is sending her money, but I don't think so. I'm usually the go-to.
Well, that's about. No, don't tell me she has a better name than DJ Doorman or
Doorgirl. DJ Doorgirl. No, she said, hey, that's what come out in the Substack. So
oh my gosh. She goes by DJ Doorgirl.
DJ Doorgirl.
I mean, hey.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that crazy?
I love it. So is she doing that full time?
She is.
Wow. What a gift. What a time to be alive, huh?
I know. And what's so funny is I have the total old man sleep pattern now where I'll go to bed at, pick a time, 10 o'clock, and I'll wake up at 3 in the morning and have to pee, right? 2 or 3 in the morning.
If I'm 7 months pregnant, I feel you on that
there
one.
we go. Yes, the 54-year-old male, the young pregnant woman. We have the same pee schedule.
Mhm.
So anyway, I get up and I always pick up Instagram, and she's always live on Instagram. And I'm going, man, that looks like a lot of fun. I would want to go do that.
Love it. Have you been to one of her parties?
I've seen a couple of her shows, but I have not been to New York yet to see one. We've just they've just never lined up correctly. So anyway, but I want to do that this summer.
Oh yeah, you've got to. What a blast.
So tell me, shows? You go out and play shows? What's that look like?
I play a small to medium amount of shows. What's really funny, Chuck, is that the live music economy is much friendlier in North Dakota than it is in LA. And that's, I don't know exactly what to chalk that up to. I mean, LA has a lot of musicians,
supply
and
and
singers,
demand,
supply and
right?
demand,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think there's just not a lot of people there that are interested in attending stuff. And not to mention all their friends are throwing shows all the time. And so they're going out for other purposes. But yeah, in Williston, it's easy to be, we call it packing a small box in the music industry. It's easy to be a big fish in a small pond. And that has worked to my just delight, I think. I play a handful of festivals up there. There's this big Norwegian cultural festival, and I'm very Norwegian, no matter what the brunette eyebrows would say. And that was a 4-day festival I was able to play last fall. I play a lot of restaurants, just different things around town. It's not like playing a huge set at one of the legendary LA venues, but my friends are there, people I love are there, and the money's decent. I mean, not to keep coming back to money, but again, supply and demand is going to skew you away from the pay-to-play model and more toward guarantees. So I love playing shows in North Dakota. I play shows in other places too, but it just, I do things at my own pace, man. So whatever comes up.
That's so cool. It was, I wish I could remember her name, because I'm sure you potentially know her. She's from Montana, and oh gosh. Anyway, well, this was crazy. Small town in Montana, literally up on the Canadian border. Guy builds an amphitheater there, and for whatever reason, he's in love with the singer Jewel. And he's decided Jewel needs to play the opening of this amphitheater. And so I get the phone call from my dear friend Jewel, who's like, we're going to Montana. And I was like, really? So fly into Billings, I think. And then we helicopter up.
Yeah.
And so a couple of crazy things on that trip. One, as we're helicoptering up, helicopter pilot's like, hey, do y'all have 10 minutes? You want to see this? And we're like, sure. So he kind of banks right, and this guy's built an 18-hole golf course where in the middle of the 15th fairway, he has an exact replica of Stonehenge.
Oh, my goodness,
So
you're
we
kidding
just
me.
kind of like flying over, and he goes, I don't know what this is. It's Stonehenge, and it looks exactly like it. So anyway, we do that. But we wind up flying, and Jewel opens the amphitheater that night, and the opening act was so cool, and I'm blanking on her name. It would have been much better story had I had her name, because you probably know the performer. I think her dad was a famous performer.
She's from North Dakota? Or
She's in Montana.
she's in Montana?
Yeah, north of the north. They all run together for me, and I get that that's hundreds of
Yes.
miles.
I'm going to have to check
apart.
out that amphitheater. Do you know the name of the...
Gosh, I'm totally blanking, but I will think.
I'm ashamed that I don't know it.
Well, and I was on the Canadian cell phone network when I was up there. That's how close you are
Mm-hmm.
to the border. But gosh, what was her name? Anyway, next time you talk, I'll spend 2 seconds on my cell phone and see if I can find her name. But I guess where I was going with this is there is a culture of outdoor music there.
I love that
mean-
you said outdoor music too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really, what I want to do next is really foster the caliber of the talent locally, because while there's a lot of interest in music, per the demand that is higher than the supply, there isn't a lot of there aren't a lot of resources available for someone who wants to become like a world-class drummer or world-class bassist. In fact, I just started learning bass myself because there just aren't any bassists in town. And so I've been I put together a music workshop last fall, and I hope to make it annual, where I flew up my team from LA and just had them sit with like the bar musicians of Williston and the church musicians in Williston and the high schoolers who are up and coming, just to see what would happen, because you can have all the talent in the world, but if there's no one to foster it or guide you in it, what's it going to be worth? So that's been my latest focus, is just trying to hone what we've got up there, even if just to build my own band, you know?
Well, and I will say this about L.A. As much as I despise the city of L.A., when you're down there, bands try so much harder than they do anywhere else. There's no tuning your instrument in between songs. There's no downtime. I mean, bands get after it. And I think it's because they have to, right? Because they know any given audience, there's a record company executive there. There's a tour promoter, whatever. So they always have their A game. So I will give Los Angeles props for doing that.
Well, talent begets talent, you know? So the more talent I can get up in Williston, the more talent I expect to find there. And maybe even build a little facility sometime for like production work or something. We just don't have anything currently, and so there's nowhere to go but up.
Yeah. Now, does Williston still kind of have boom and bust cycle vibes to it, or because of the prominence of the Bakken over the last 10 years, or 15, 20 years, there's been more stability there? But, you know, and you're probably too young to even get this, but I mean, all of the oil towns, all the extraction towns usually have these big build-up phases and then oil crashes, and then they go away. And I don't know what it's like up in the Bakken, because when Michael Patrick Smith went up there, I want to say it was 2012, definitely boom time.
Yeah.
I mean, he was living in somebody's bottom shelf.
Right. Something like that. Yeah, after he was done living in his truck. There's a bit of it. You know, I mean, the Williams County, where Williston is based, was the second fastest growing county in America from 2010 to 2020. The first fastest growing was McKenzie County, which is just to our south. So there's been a huge influx of people, and it's no longer just men. I mean, when Michael was there, the ratio of men to women was like 9-1 kind of thing. Very hungry town. But you know, people bring their wives, they bring their girlfriends up, and then they start having babies. And that alone, I mean, as much of a strain as it is on the school system, is like an anchor for community stability, because you don't want to uproot the place where your kids grew up. And so as soon as you start having babies somewhere, I mean, you're probably there to stay. So I when there is a downturn, like 2020, for example, when we were negative $40, you could just sense the like despondence around town. But people weren't moving away so much as they were just kind of loafing around, wishing they'd saved more of their, you know, salary from the last 3 years.
It was great. I was in Midland when I was young in my career, so I was maybe 25 years old.
Whoa, Midland! What year was that? Not to tell you.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm old. That was probably 30 years ago. So call it, you know, mid 90s. And I'm sitting there at the Midland Petroleum Club, all these old guys around the table, and each one of them is talking about their various companies, and it was like water off a duck's back. They were like, oh, that was about the time I lost my third company. You know, I lost my fourth company. Then the ex-wife got the fifth company. I mean, they just didn't care. And innocent, little naive me said, why don't you save some money in the good times so that then in the bad times you can make it through? One guy put his arm around me. He said, oh, hell, son, it's a lot more fun to spend it.
100%. Oh, I'm so frustrated by that mentality up there. It just drives me nuts. I mean, I understand it when you put $150,000 a year in the hands of like a 21-year-old. You're like, What do you expect? But when you're 30, when you're 40, when you start to have these people depending on you, and you're still, you know, buying a new Jeep because we're in a boom cycle, like, I don't know. It's just very not shrewd. And it reminded me a little bit even of your episode the other day about the alcoholism. Because I mean, that indulgence, that like the party culture, let's get drunk, let's get high. I feel like it goes hand in hand with that money, the boom bust cycle.
I had JJ, and I'm going to mispronounce his last name, Arsami, who talked about the boom and bust town of Rock Springs, Wyoming, and he'd written a book on it. It was kind of an oral history, and he came on the podcast and talked about it. And that's the thing he kind of came back to over and over again: the booze, the drugs, and all that. It's like, well, yeah, you got for the first time in your life a lot of money in your hands. What are you going to do with it? And so, okay, I found the name of the artist, Halliday Quist.
Oh, I don't know that name. What a good name. Are you kidding me?
Halliday Quist, yeah. No, but she's a Montana singer.
Halliday Quist. I'm going to look her up.
I'll have to look her up. So.
Yeah, I could stand to make a few more friends across the border.
There we go. There we go. I'll introduce you if you'd like.
That'd be great.
I haven't talked to her in a while. But no, she was really cool. And she was good. I mean, kind of traditional Americana singer-songwriter type stuff. And so...
Yeah, I love to see it. It's pretty neat.
All right. So you sent me an email, which of course I didn't read. I hate to read emails. Sorry about that. You were very kind to put that together. But you were talking about the episode I did with Kelly Mitchell, and you said this is an example of something. What was that?
Yeah. So first of all, I was delighted by that episode.
Kelly's
Especially,
cool.
Yeah, she's super cool. And as someone who's married to, not quite a climate guy per se, quote unquote, but like someone who works in emissions and is kind of more on the other side of the equation to render our relationship carbon neutral. I appreciated your willingness to chat with her and just the friendliness and the vibe. It was super, super cool because I love that cross the aisle, cross partisan community. So yeah, toward the end of that episode, you had mentioned like, hey, Kelly, we should get like your people and my people together in a room sometime, and let's pick an issue, like an easy issue, a small issue, and find all the points of common ground and see where we can agree and like come up with a policy.
Let's go find a river. Let's go find a river to fix or something.
Exactly. Because we're all conservationists. I mean, the oil and gas guys are hunting on the lease every other weekend. So, you know what I mean? They care about the earth. And I said to myself, oh my gosh, Chuck just described the Braver Angels Common Ground workshop format. Now, Braver Angels is the nation's largest cross-partisan organization that's working to build bridges across the divide. And they do this through all sorts of workshops, some of which are one-on-one. You know, if you are super progressive and I'm over here super libertarian, we get to know each other first as people, establish that bedrock, and then discuss some of our differences in belief from there and try to better understand one another. Some of the workshops are more like that common ground thing that you yourself described, where you get different people in a room to actually write something on a whiteboard, underline the points of agreement, and then distill it at the end so you can see just how much you actually do agree. And Brave Angels also has a music team, which is where I come in. I lead our music programming. You know, we try to integrate music into all of these existing workshops and debates and so forth that the organization has. But we also do outreach just culturally, because who's more powerful in culture than the entertainers? So if you can get the entertainers on board for this bridge building cause, you're in a much better position to speak to young people in particular.
So my solution to solve everything.
Oh, it's solving everything.
Of course it wouldn't.
Who needs a job when you can solve everything?
Yeah, when I can solve everything, at least in my own mind. But no, I've always thought that, and I'm a libertarian, so I don't believe in having a lot of laws, but I'd be
right there with everybody.
Be willing to have this as a law. People running against each other in politics should have to get their families and go eat dinner together once every 2 weeks, let's say. No cameras, no press.
Oh my gosh.
You know, grab your husband, I grab my wife. If we're running against each other, we have to go eat dinner. An hour. And nobody's around, no cameras, no nothing. You should have to do that.
Oh, I'm going to pitch that to Braver Angels. Not as a law per se,
right.
But as some kind of initiative, because we can sometimes, we've been working on what's called the Braver Politics Initiative, actually getting some of these methods and really almost like marriage counseling tactics to be used on the Hill. And I feel like that would be so up their alley. They might want to publicize it with a little bit of press, but I like the appeal of no press. I really like where your mind's going with that.
Chatham House rules, whatever's said at dinner stays at dinner, but you at least have to interact. Because
Love it. Put a face to the name, put a face to the color.
I mean, it's really easy on social media and through the press to talk bad about someone. If you're going to have to go see their children in 9 days, maybe you bite your tongue.
Oh my gosh, 100%.
Yeah.
I love that idea, Chuck. That's great.
There we go. Okay, I'm done.
You're done.
My work is done. No, but so is there a website or something for the organization?
Yeah, so braverangels.org the menu is very robust on that website, but you can find write-ups on all the different workshops I just described and more. There's also, for any musicians out there, we have a songwriting contest that's taking submissions right now. I think between now and the end of May. I should know this as like captain of the music team. But yeah, that song contest is seeking musicians who are putting together songs that are either an example of bridge building, like a song that it maybe holds an opinion really strongly, but still is humanizing the other point of view and not just deriding them and kind of strawmanning them, or oh my gosh, I'm totally losing my footing here. An example of bridge building or a song about unity, shall we say? Oh. So we attract often songs that are kind of kumbaya, but that's not totally what Braver Angels is. There's nothing mushy about bridge building. Unity is strong. It's complex. It's multicultural, and there's room for everyone to be very much themselves, even if they hold really, really strong opinions. So we don't want to shy away from just people holding very, very partisan beliefs in their songs or other art that they're making. So does that make sense?
Yeah, no. You know what the fascinating thing is the Beatles wrote the song Revolution, right? And you've heard Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually the theme song for the Young Republicans College Club, as well as the theme song for the Young Democrats
You are
College Club.
kidding.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Back in the 60s. Yeah, they had both groups adopted it as their the Beatles are the best, right? So
I love that. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, they both saw something in the song.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had there's this one song that I have called Take 21, I think it was, that was optioned for like a Showtime mini series about the Trump administration, and obviously it's not like friendly to Trump. And I was so amused by that because like that song is not about hating on Republicans. Like, I'm very libertarian through and through. But that song in particular is really just about like humanizing the other side. And here they think it's about their team. And I was so delighted by that. I'm like, yeah, use my song on your liberal show. Like, that's great. I think that's kick-ass.
Oh, that's funny. That's wild. That's, Jewel gets paid a fortune to sing You Were Meant for Me at weddings. Mm-hmm. It's a breakup song. Right? I mean, the lady is saying, one day you will see you were meant for me and I was meant for you.
Oh, my goodness.
Kind of lamenting / blasting post-breakup about this.
That's like not Jeff Buckley, Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah, too. People bring that up as this kind of romantic or sweet song, and I'm like, ooh, that's a dark one. It's a real dark one. Get what you will.
So my priest Patrick, the 5 o'clock service I go to, we in effect have what I'll call a jazz band. So we have singer, piano player, stand-up bass, guitar, sit-down percussion, sometimes keyboard player, sometimes a violin player, so we'll actually do non-traditional hymns during church. So they closed church last Sunday with "Let It Be" by the Beatles, but they'll periodically do "Hallelujah."
No.
And I'll sit there and I go, I know that's the word.
That's the word.
God gonna strike us down with lightning here, or
that's so funny. In an Episcopal church, huh?
And the Episcopalians are crazy.
Yeah, I thought it's like Catholic light.
I know. You know what the major flex is by the Episcopalians, which I find just remarkable, is right. They're the Anglican Church. Mm-hmm. Henry VIII was it Henry VIII that started the church because he kept beheading wives and the Pope wouldn't give him a divorce, so he starts the Church of England. The is Episcopalians, Anglicans, Church of England. They claim lineage all the way back to Peter and being the first pope. I mean, not, hey, we started this new church because our guy is beheading people. They literally just claim it all the way back, and they say the Catholics are the fault. I'm not a defender of the Catholics and all, but that is a pretty strong flex.
That's super. There's actually, I mean, not to get too much on the religion front, but there's some Anglican parishes that I think are getting reinstated as formal Catholic parishes because they maintained what you just described, which is called apostolic succession, where, everyone laid hands on the next priest and the next priest laid hands on the next priest, going all the way back to Peter. And that, I mean, it's something they value a lot. So, yeah, God be with them.
That, I also think it's the great flex by Jesus that he would just rename people.
Yeah, no kidding.
My name's Simon. Now you're Peter.
Not really anymore.
You're Peter.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, kudos to you, Jesus.
There you go.
Son of God, I guess you can do that.
Yeah, let there be light. His words matter. His words make moves, I guess.
All right, so people, okay, give us the punchline on how you help on compliance. So if you wanted somebody out in the audience to call you, what does that someone look like?
Okay, well, first of all, don't call me because I'm about to have a baby. I'm not really accepting new clients right now, actually, because I really value my current clientele and I want to make sure that they're well taken care of. And if I add a bunch of new clients before I leave for a few weeks or a few months, then just not very smart. But, bookmark me for at a later date, cookcompliance.co. I basically just eliminate, I'm a bullshit eliminator in the compliance world. So I handle some of the administrative tasks that you're asked to manage, whether it's a drug testing audit or, keeping track of certificates of insurance or training, like building a safety training calendar for what you should be covering every month, that kind of thing. Some of what I do is educational. It's me explaining to you why you're being asked to do a certain thing and how you can strategize, given who you want to work for in the next 5 years, to better get ahead of what I know those particular operators are going to ask of you. And then finally, there's a negotiative kind of lawyerly component where, operator X might say, I want you to have a $10 million umbrella policy in your insurance book. And I say, I'm again, that 2-person company, that 3-person company, that doesn't really make sense for us. Can we talk about lowering that? And so I'll stand in the gap there and mediate and say, okay, this is why this stuff shouldn't apply to us. Let's work toward an exemption. So I wear a lot of different hats, and my team helps me handle all of that stuff that I just described. I'm really, really grateful for them. But yeah, I mean, it's a vague industry, so it's hard to, if you're in it, like if you're a small contractor, the stuff I'm talking about, the ISNet world, the PEC, the Veriforce, the NCMS, the TPS, like it's alphabet soup. It doesn't make much sense to people outside of it. But if you're in it, you know how annoying it is. And so everything I just said would make a little more sense.
It seemed to be one of those things that in my career, when this stuff got brought up to me, it was bad, right? Something bad had happened. On a day-to-day basis, I didn't know any of that existed. It was only when something bad happened. So how do people find music?
Yeah, I recommend... I gotta get a lot better at this. I think that you should just search me on whatever platform you listen to music on, whether that's YouTube, whether that's Spotify, Apple Music. Alma Cook is the name. That's ALMACOOK. I've got a website. It's hearalma.com, HEAR, like hear with your ears, alma.com. I'm also on Twitter at hearalma. But let's be honest, I do things at my own pace, which often means I'm not really present on the internet too much. I'm doing my thing. But certainly on those streaming services, wherever you enjoy listening, you could find me by looking up my name.
Okay, so to close this podcast, we're going to put the video and the song to kind of close it. Which one you want?
Oh, 5,000 Candles, obviously.
5,000 Candles, okay.
Yeah, featuring Williston, North Dakota, and the faces of the hardworking Americans who live there.
So you want to do it? You want me to do it? Because we're going to slap it right on the end here. You want to intro it? You want me to intro it?
Yeah, I want to hear you do it.
Oh. I'm reaching for my best Wolfman Jack impersonation, or I guess maybe Howard Stern impersonation or whatever.
Oh, be my guest.
No. So here we go. 5,000 Candles, Alma Cook. Please enjoy.
There's a lot of people running around that don't stay the night, never come through town. And some other people running about that don't take the time to suss you out. Still some of us every night we make a toast to you, like isn't it nice that somebody had the presence of mind to speak up for you. Let there be light. No, it doesn't make me one of a kind that I came to you at an opportune time. And it doesn't mean I'm one of the guys, but I'm grateful you came and opened my eyes. Still none of us up in the play, we don't think enough about the beauty we make. It's all work here every day, but when the lights go out, it's then that I say, sight to behold, nothing you could do will make me go. We'll let the world judge what they don't know. Giving me a heartbeat, making me never wanna leave. We'll let the world judge, cause they don't see 5,000 candles, 5,000 candles burning bright on the light you could handle. 5,000 candles, sit right now. 5,000 candles, 5,000 candles burning bright on the light you could handle. 5,000 candles, sit right now. It's only a phase and then soon enough I'll see that I'm crazy for loving you the way that I do, because who could love somebody like you? They say you're too damn small and I